Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. Hope you are doing well, and of course, thank you for joining us here as we talk all things drag racing. We got an awesome show lined up for you guys today. Dare I say it? A barn burner. We've got Jason Terrell from 10 Soldiers Race Cars, fresh off a win at Gangsters Paradise No Prep at Wagler Motorsports Park in Indiana. Then we will be joined by Robin Roberts from No Prep Kings Stardom, another guy fresh off a win, Cordova Dragway in Illinois, and then to round up round off the 3 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Top Fuel superstar Antron Brown to talk about his win in Norwalk, Ohio this past weekend. But before I get too much further along, I want to introduce my co-hosts here. I'm glad to have one of them back in the saddle, fresh off vacation 4 or 5, I think, maybe 12 of 2024. Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson. What's up, boys?
Man, he's not even tan.
Oh yeah, I am pretty tan, JT. Compared, you have to do a before and after to see how white I was.
He's got his allergies too.
Yeah, I do have some. I actually have something that I picked up. Not the JT allergies. What do you? Have you guys been hanging out with Richard Freeman or something? You're worse than him on the vacation stuff now.
Yeah, I know.
Get out of bed. Work.
Get out of bed. I actually thought we should do a segment on the show where we just literally try to do like our very poor imitations of people.
We actually have some good ones. There's a lot that we can't do publicly.
I can do Shake Khaled real well, but it's probably not politically correct. I can do Richard Freeman pretty well. Who else can I? I really like to do Steve Petty, but primarily my Steve Petty is more about pulling people into the beams with like a cigarette in one hand and doing this. He stirs the pot when he pulls them in the water or pulls them in the staging beams, stirs the pot, kind of got screwed up fingers or whatever.
Yeah, you definitely do.
Share.
We can't, that'll be our farewell for like leaving the industry. We'll do all those impressions because we'll have to leave. We'll have to leave the industry permanently if we do some of those.
You know what? There's probably some truth to that. I see Vic Wood in the house. Thank you guys. Have a great 4th. I hope all of y'all have a great 4th of July. It's hard to believe. I feel like I say it every week, but it's how in the hell is it the 4th of July?
I know. I mean, and JT, I'm pretty upset, dude. I thought you were going to come on here like fully Star Spangled Banner, like possibly shirtless in like a American flag Speedo or something.
Your shit the past week,
Okay. All right. Sorry to derail that.
No. Yeah. JT was he's a stopgap when you're gone. He's the difference maker.
I mean, he's just picking up all the slack. When I come back, I'm like, why am I even here? JT's got it covered.
I just stick up for you and in the HR department, they were like, well, "Where's Mike?" And I'm like,
if JT's sticking up for me,
he went to grab a sandwich. He'll be right back.
If JT's sticking up for me, I literally have lost all other support.
That's true.
It's just down to JT.
Not to derail us here, as JT, why don't you turn the music down and I want to. Speaking of support, what an incredible outpouring of support we saw this week on the heels of the incredibly untimely passing of Lizzy Musi, someone who I feel like we've watched her grow up. I mean, I vividly remember the first time I encountered her, her getting her feet wet in a Top Sportsman car and transition to that. I loved the red Edelbrock test car, and then getting into PDRA Pro Nitrous, and of course, I would say the tippy top of the No Prep Kings mountain in terms of stardom. I want to share this because I think it's relevant. It's horror. Obviously, this is the most tragic of news. I will be honest with you and say that I was somewhat blind. I mean, obviously Lizzy's been fighting the battle against cancer for over a year now, but I guess we just, you start to hear less, and you kind of cross your fingers and hope that things are headed in the right direction. And cancer is one of those weird things that affects almost all of us. I think both my parents are cancer survivors, so it's near and dear my heart. But I was completely blindsided by the news that Lizzy had passed last Thursday night. Just gut-wrenching moment. But in the days that followed, I was reminded of how significant her impact has been on this sport. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about these generational stars, right? I mean, we just spoke for the last couple of weeks about John Force, but I mean, if you can compare and contrast, like, the impact John has had over the course of 50, 60 plus years, right? And you think about the impact that Lizzy achieved and the mark she made here in a really short amount of time in drag racing metrics. And I wanted to say that, like, when we posted the story, and shout out to our editorial team, who have really been, I got to tip my cap to all of them. Nate Van Wagenen, our editor-in-chief, Kayla Zadell, Craig Cook, everybody involved with the editorial end, yourself, Mike, Josh Dixon. It's been heavy the last few weeks. It just seems like one gut-wrenching moment after another, and they have answered the call. And I've tasked our team with, I want to cover the sport of drag racing with the same reverence and the same professionalism and the same class that you would see ESPN cover the NFL, or, Fox Sports cover the NHL or NBA or what have you. And I think that's an important thing. And we can't ignore these things when they happen. We have to acknowledge them. And I just want to give a huge shout out to our team, because it's been tough the last few weeks to constantly be faced with another bad news piece. It's not something that we like to do here. In typical news terminology, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, a lot of the mainstream media loves bad news. It's something that we've shied away from here, sometimes to our detriment. I mean, I think both of you will agree that we've had plenty of opportunities over the years to break some bad news story or be the first on the scene with something, and we've resisted, because I never wanted that to be our calling card. I never wanted to be the guys that were, kind of ambulance chasers, so to speak, and just following around the next bad news story because they knew it would produce the most clicks or the most views. But I do want to acknowledge that the news of Lizzy Musi's passing crashed our website on 4 separate occasions. We've never in the history of this company, almost 20 years strong, saw the type of web traffic. We had 500,000 people on the website inside of 24 hours. And I've never seen, and I know that's obviously of little solace, little comfort in this moment.
It crashed when we announced that she was diagnosed with breast cancer as well.
It did. And
she's, and I think there was been other times too. She's a site crasher. She crashed the stream for the services yesterday. I mean, it's that's a consistent thing. Anything with Lizzy is going to strain your resources. So,
and like I said, it does little to comfort anyone. I know it does little to provide solace to the family and the people that are, upside down right now over this situation. But I hope it does demonstrate how significant this young woman's impact, the mark she made on this sport, because I honestly don't know what else we could have put on dragillustrated.com that would have generated that type of interest in just overwhelming.
Well, also it was
unbelievable.
It was picked up by so many mainstream media and news outlets, which is what was amazing. And they were linking back in a lot of situations to Drag Illustrated, because I think we probably had the most coverage of her and the most recent and up-to-date news and coverage on her. That's another testament to Kayla and the editorial team on our website. But I mean, I don't know if everyone saw this, but it's on Newsweek, it's on New York Post, it's on Yahoo, E-News, ET, Entertainment Tonight, TMZ. Pat told me TMZ actually called the shop to get quotes or an interview. I don't think they got a hold of him. I think it was in the middle of just probably the worst timing of it. But I mean, that alone, like we're talking about the reach and impact she has, and how we're always wanting Drag Illustrated to make that jump to the mainstream and to have these crossover stars that can reach beyond our sport. She was one of those, and in my opinion, in a lot of ways, underrated for that and for her career arc that she had. And I think as time goes on, we're going to look back and see her impact and see what she did in the sport. And for all the attention and all the coverage she got, I do think that those things were underrated.
I think you're right, and we are going to look back. And first and foremost, on a multitude of levels, we're going to miss her.
Mm-hmm.
She was a lightning rod, a fierce competitor. I mean, because let's not make light of the fact this is a very accomplished, rapidly improving, confident, constantly improving driver, and she did everything very well. Like everything was a big production, always had a presence at every trade show. She was doing meet and greets. She was all these big sponsors. Like she had really taken. And it was something that we had not seen that much of, because in typical, I mean, if you look through the pits at a no prep Kings race, for example, I mean, you see a lot of independent business owners, people that are, small business owners that have had some level of success financially or in business that has supported or afforded them the opportunity to race, where Lizzy was out raising money, racing to win, racing because that purse money would keep her at the next event, developing merch, selling stuff. Like she had created a real business out of her racing. And I think it's incredible that someone who was racing 8th mile door slammers had found a way to turn it into a business. And it's, I
think a lot of people, a lot of people, want to discredit her or say, oh, it's, she's the son of Pat Musi. She had this head start. She's got daddy's money. I saw that a lot. I mean, the Musis are not, poor or whatever by any means, but they're not, billionaires. And Pat built his business on his own from the ground up, and then maybe was able to get Lizzy the head start that she needed to get out there. But she performed under immense pressure. That's the thing that I think that people don't realize is, Wes, we saw it when we would go to these No Prep Kings events. I feel like the entire attendance, everyone there was there to be in Lizzy's autograph and t-shirt line. And she would stand there for hours and take photos and sign autographs and sell shirts to people. And if you're one of the people that maybe she, you caught her when she was sick or tired or didn't get a hold of her, it wasn't for lack of effort or the fact that she didn't want to do it. It just had to be absolutely overwhelming, the pressure and the spotlight that she performed under on and off the track. And I think for her to get thrown into, because I mean, if you remember early in her career, there was that big crash she had in that blue 68 Camaro, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And it was on, she was like, she did news stories then. She was on like Good Morning America or something, whatever it was, talking about this crash. And then, that's like not a positive thing, but she kind of turned it into one. And then she was in that red car. And then we were there for her Pro Nitrous debut in the King Kong car, the former Stratus that Pat had raced. And just to kind of get thrown into it like that, with all that pressure of Pat being your dad and the success that he had. And then just all the attention and the expectation she had to continue to work at it and improve. And she had adversity. She crashed a few more times. She had, several instances where you could go, I don't want to do this. This is too much. This is, maybe this isn't for me or whatever. But she continued, like we talked about, to improve to where if you saw in-car camera footage of her, or if you saw some of her, most recent performances in the last handful of years, you would just see a consistent machine of a driver in there, and really learn from those early situations. So, like I said, I think that's one thing that I take away from it, and being close to the family and close to them here in Mooresville, is just the behind the scenes, the pressure, and the how underrated she was. Especially, I mean, I feel like she was probably just hitting her stride in her career, and to see what's happened to her, and someone that was in such good shape and took care of herself. I never saw her eat anything but a salad. I mean, she took pride in all of that, and to see cancer take someone like that from us, someone that was so healthy and vibrant and could just light up a room, is just absolutely tragic on a personal level, and for the family and for the sport of drag racing.
I have a multitude of thoughts and memories when I think about Lizzy. Like, I think about having to, so many of us are lucky in that a lot of our, our personal lives are personal, but she found herself very early on in a position where, these things are constantly being talked about in the public forum, constantly being talked about on social media, and the way she managed it and took the chances that she did and forged forward when, like you said, Mike, she had multiple opportunities to say, you know what, I don't think this is for me, or I don't know that it's worth it. I think back to just last year at the Texas Motorplex for the No Prep Kings season finale, being there and literally being in the pits with Pat and Liz and Lizzy, and honestly feeling like you were on a red carpet somewhere. I mean, you were constantly like being photographed and everybody around, and it wasn't like cell phone pictures. I mean, there's like photographers there taking photos with telephoto lenses, trying to catch a glimpse of her. And I think back to her PDRA Pro Nitrous debut when she was driving the Kong Stratus. I remember this moment. Mike, you and I were in the tower, I think, talking. I can't remember who we were with. We were hanging out with somebody. Maybe it was John Ford. I can't remember. But anyways, we were up in the tower, and this was back kind of earlier on in the fuel-injected nitrous racing days, and the car went idle.
It was cool outside, and it was, I just don't think they had it idling exactly right. It
went idle,
something off.
And it kept dying, and she'd start it, put it in gear, and as soon as it got a load on the motor, it'd die. And she'd put it back in neutral, fire it back up, and it did it 2 or 3 times. And Pat was up on the starting line, headset on, ready to, hey, it's time to go. I believe there was already another car that had done its burnout. And here comes Pat storming back. And it's like, I immediately went back to like being a kid, having my dad come yell and scream at me about something. And I remember, and I've been in this moment, but like Lizzy's strapped in the car. He swings the door open, leans in there, reaches up, fires it. He's got his hand on the throttle, running the throttle. Is wabba, wabba, revving it up, and I'm like, holy crap. And then she goes up there and goes like 030, makes a killer pass, never bobbles, does a great burnout, stages the car calm and collected. And I remember going to see her after the fact, and I said, I truly believe it's moments like that when you've got people yelling in your face, you've got all this pressure, you've got to hurry up, short burnout, right? All the hand signals are happening in your first race, and you go up there and you handle it like a pro. And it was, I felt like that was going to be impactful on her.
I think she went to the semis in that first race, if I'm remembering correctly. And she did very well, qualified top half of the field, went to the semis or something. And I believe she won a Pro Nitrous race in her first season. I think it was at VMP.
And she was a star. She was a star from way back when too. I mean, yeah. Even back in those days, we got her in trouble one time. Do you guys remember at the VI after hours party?
We did get her in trouble.
Yeah, and Pat and Vic Edelbrock had left the party and kind of, I think, left him. Maybe Mike was supposed to take care. I don't know. But when I walked, I was late as well to get back to the trade show the next day after the party, and I could go by the Edelbrock booth. And there sits Pat, and he just stares at me, and I'm like, uh-oh. And he's like, where's Lizzy? I'm like, I don't know, man. And he's like, well, last time I saw her with you guys. And yeah, she was late for her autograph session.
Yeah, I remember that.
She's still selling or sitting there signing autographs and really young in her career at that point.
It was an autograph session with her and Vic Edelbrock. And they had posters made and everything. And they had this table, like a 2-person table with 2 chairs. And I remember walking up to the table, and it's just Vic Edelbrock signing, and then a blank chair and a stack of posters sitting there. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, our bad. Shout out to the PRI party, all of our brothers and sisters.
She's not the first one. She's not the first one to not show up to the show the next day or be struggling, but that's a perfect example where everybody knew that Lizzy wasn't there because, the spotlight was always on her. The rest of us could escape that if we had to or wanted to, but she couldn't. So, and I think she learned from that stuff too. I'm telling you, I never saw her. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw her, stay out late or do anything, or like I said, you go to dinner, we're all eating steaks or whatever else, and she's having a salad. And so she really took her health seriously, and but just saw her, went to dinner with her and Jeffrey about a month ago to celebrate a new deal that the Musis had brought on for this year with Rottler. And she said she felt good, looked good. She just was moving forward. You would just never know. And so to see it kind of happen the way it did, again, is just shocking and tragic for so many people.
Well, I just want to say, like, on behalf of myself, Mike, JT, the whole team here at Drag Illustrated, Blake in the green room, everybody involved with this company, we're, I don't know, 20 or almost 20 strong at this point. Our hearts go out to Pat, Liz, the entire Musi family. It's a large operation. She touched a lot of different people and was involved with a lot of different sponsors, and a lot of companies really embraced her and had her a big part of what they do and a big part of their promotional strategy. And our hearts are with you guys. And Mike, I know there was a massive turnout yesterday at the celebration of life. They had the cars out there. I mean, that was another thing that I think that she leaned into the opportunity that was provided to her by Discovery Channel. And I thought it was fantastic that she chose to participate in all those shows and all those spin-offs. And because I think a lot of people would have said, there's not enough in it for me. It's going to be too much work or too much pressure, too much travel. Never said no, always a part of those deals, took advantage of the opportunity. And I think that's why we're speaking of her with such reverence right now. And
yeah, that was hard. Honestly, it hit me yesterday. It really, I've been kind of in shock, through the whole deal, and it doesn't really hit you until there's like that one moment. And I was in the turn lane on the highway getting ready to pull into the funeral home, and you could see the cars out there on display, like from the road. And that was like, it hit me right there. They're like, this is real. This is the last time, we have seen that car make its last pass with her behind the wheel, or, period. So it's tough. They fired that car up though. The funeral home people were not prepared for that. They were not prepared. They actually did a fantastic job, I have to say, dealing with the amount of people that were there and just with everything going on, the attention that brought. They had everything set up and everything flowed really nicely. And then when they fired those cars up, or they fired up the No Prep Kings car, I don't think that they were ready for that, or they were ready to see the cops roll around the corner and wonder what was going on over there. But it was a cool moment. I know everyone enjoyed that. I think there were some videos circulating of that on various sites. Yep. So that was that. I mean, that got a lot of people.
I'm so glad that we had her match race at the World Series of Pro Mod back in March, because like I told Pat, and I told him this on the starting line, and I get chills talking about it. Like I told him when he was there, it was a dream of mine to have them at one of my races. Like you go into these things, and I'm a dreamer, but it's like, I want to do something where these people are there. This guy comes, or that guy comes, and that gal comes. And that means something to me, just to get that vote of confidence, or them acknowledging that they believe in what we're doing by showing up. And I remember when I was up doing my insanity on the starting line, but like every time I'd look in her car, the front windshield on that car was pretty sizable with the stock body lines. I felt like I could see a whole lot more into the car than any of the other pro mods that were there. And I would go up and clap, give her, get her fired up, and she would clap right back at me. You know what I mean? She had those skeleton finger gloves on, the fight that people wear.
And then rip a hell of a burnout. Lizzy, I would say Lizzy is the modern day burnout champion. I would say burnout king, but she would be the burnout queen. But it's not just among women. She would do a hell of a burnout. And I mean, they like to do those a little bit more in the no prep situation to try to lay some rubber down, obviously, versus the terrible burnouts that we tend to do in every other class now. But when Lizzy would do a burnout and sit there and boil them for so long that the smoke would catch in the zoomies, and then it would go like sky high. I don't know if you'd watch, and and then here they had the pink underglows under it too. I mean, just sitting there doing a burnout was like a spectacle usually for the last couple of years. So she's like the modern day John Force. He was known for doing huge burnouts. I think back in the day, guys would just take pride in their burnouts, and she did, and that was such a cool thing here in recent times to continue to see that.
It was definitely what I noticed. I went over to her after she made her first like shakedown run on Thursday or Friday night, and she did like an 8th mile burnout. And I go, hey, just keep doing that. Like, I don't care. Scoreboard's off, scoreboard, whatever. Just keep doing those. Keep doing those big burnouts. And I think I actually told some of my pro mod guys and gals, like, hey, take note, because that helps. It helps a lot. And yeah, man, our hearts go out to her family. And I got to tell you, as we kind of transition into the next segment of the show here, that this is the stuff that I'm so proud of, is that I really, truly believe we are all brothers and sisters in arms. I've had a lot of these conversations in recent weeks, it would seem, but I feel, we came on the scene in drag racing in 2005 with a goal of galvanizing this sport. We wanted to bring the men and women that make this sport so special together. It felt very segmented. It felt very disjointed, if you will. We'd have this thriving scene of small tire racing, and then we'd have this kind of fractured scene of nostalgia nitro racing, or this fractured pro mod scene, or fractured sportsman scene, and all these different variations. And like this show today, the show last week, in recent weeks, the magazine for 20 years, like I'm really proud of the fact that we treat people the same. Like I'm excited about the fact that we've got a show lineup today that includes Jason Terrell, a king of the no prep world right now. We've got Antron Brown, the NHRA Top Fuel champion and recent winner in Norwalk, on the show. We got Robin Roberts. Like it's high time that we treat our sport across all those levels with this type of reverence and this type of publicity and promotion. And I'm genuinely proud of it. And I appreciate all your guys
talking about Robin. He had a great tribute to Lizzy. I think we'll have to ask him about that when he gets on here. I don't know if you guys saw that Facebook post. I think it was actually said it was a prayer like made specially for Lizzy that they talked or did on the starting line. I think Boosted did something as well. So we'll have to ask him about that, because that certainly I read it and it was one of the better tributes that I saw.
And of which there have been many. And it's, again, our hearts go out to everybody. I know this one kind of, it's been a rough couple of weeks. I mean, between the John Force situation, Roger Richards passing, this tragedy with Lizzy Musi, it's, I'm hoping that this is the end. What do they say? Sometimes things come in threes. I'm hoping that this is, we're on to the next one here, and we can celebrate the heat of summer and drag racing when the men are separated from the boys. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, our first guest of the day, presented by Redline Synthetic Oils, the one, the only Jason Terrell, driver of the infamous Charlie Brown No Prep Chevy Malibu. Jason, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you today?
What's up, man?
We're good, man. What's new and exciting, dude? I mean, tell us about Gangsters. It's funny. There's so much to cover with you. First and foremost, man, congrats on this. Is your story. I read a really great article this morning, kind of preparing for today's interview, Jason, with a story Jason Reese had written about you on, I think it's like Pit Paddock or something like that. It's a Turn 14 content thing. It was kind of telling the story of how Tin Soldiers race cars came to be, building the X275 car with like a stock like a 6-liter LS in it, stock headed, stock block 6-liter, and just the mark you made in such a short amount of time. It's really impressive, man. I mean, I guess for those that don't know, like before we get into what's happening right now, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, I think it's important people hear that you weren't necessarily part of that original X275 scene, but you were inspired by it. Sometimes we forget that there is another crop, a second generation, a third generation of these radial racers that are going to come. You tell us how this whole thing came to be.
I'll try to give you a quick a quick synopsis. I would be nothing without my business partner, Brad. He is not near as vocal as I am, but he is 3 times as smart. But I'm a second-generation drag racer. Our name, Tin Soldier, came from my dad. My dad is an NHRA Superstock guy. He raced. He still races Superstock to this day. He's 81 years old. Just a treasure to the sport of drag racing, my old man is. And he had a 69 Camaro that was a real Copo car. And back in the 60s, you named your car, right? Like that was part of what you did. And he heard the song that the old Tin Soldier, the one Tin Soldier song. And it's about all the little tin soldiers go out to battle and then one rides away. And he thought that was drag racing. And man, we have a kick-ass name. I don't know anybody, honestly, that has a better one. Yeah, so Tin Soldier is, it's a family tradition. I grew up going to all the NHRA stuff from like 2 years old. I was with my dad and we went drag racing. That is what we did. And I'll be honest, I didn't really like drag racing that much. NHRA was just kind of stale and boring to me. We did, the super stock deal. My dad he's a really good super stock racer, really good at making the car fast. Terrible bracket racer. He'll be mad at me that I said that publicly. But he is a gem at making the car fast. Like even last year we went to Indy and I think he qualified 4th in the super stock field, won his class. But I loved going to Indy and racing heads up. I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing because my dad was good at it and we won a lot. He has a ton of Wallies from racing class. I raced dirt bikes all growing up. He supported me in that and, all this stuff. But back, when X275 kind of first came out, I started watching it on YouTube, and man, I thought it was the coolest thing that these cars were kind of sketchy, that they were either wheeling in or going to the wall, or like you actually had to drive them. Like my dad's car, like dude, it's fast for what it is. It runs mid-9s, but like it's not a whole lot to do, right? Like it's gonna do its thing. This had driver input, and you had to really think about what you're doing. And I really fell in love with it. And I had started off with a turbo LS deal like 12 years ago. Didn't know what I was doing. I had a MIG welder. I just started trying to figure out how to put this car together with the help of my dad and some friends. And it was a pile, man. It went like tens, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I wanted an X275 car, and people thought I was absolutely insane. Met my business partner. We've been in business about 9 years. And yeah, we met, we had, we did a job at my house, got enough money to rent a really crappy building. And, yeah, we were in the race car business, boys. We had,
that's how it goes, right? I mean, that's the way, I mean, like, that's the story when like ingenuity trumps all, right? Like, and that's, I think that so many incredible stories in drag racing, are built on the back of like, hey, I don't have like the resources or the financial means to just pay someone to do this and pick it up running. So I've got to figure out how to do it myself. And I mean, I think that it's a cool story because I know there's a lot of young people sitting around, or a lot of guys sitting around right now, and gals for that matter, going, you know what? I was that guy. I was that person, or that's who I am right now.
Yeah.
And to see how fast, because in drag racing, it does seem like things take a long time. Like patience is a virtue. They say that for a reason, right? And you definitely have to be patient in drag racing, because oftentimes, success is, even when success is achieved to some extent, it's typically fleeting, right? Like the next thing is coming, or this new technology is going to come about, or this combination is going to be less favored than it was in years past, and it'll alter kind of your career trajectory. But like you said, been in business for almost a decade now and are at the top of your game. Like I think one of the things that I really take away from what you guys have done is just one of my favorite books. There's this line in it. It says that if you're in business in this day and age, you're in show business, whether you like it or not, whether you think you are or not, you are. And I think you're a person, you and Brad, and obviously everybody else involved with your operation, recognize that early on, because quick on the draw with media, YouTube, podcasting, being a personality, putting yourself out there. Did you know early on that was going to have to be part of this? Like, hey, if we're going to try to compete with these major operations, these big chassis shops, established builders, we're going to have to find a way to cut through the static?
Yeah. I mean, like I felt like that was our smoking gun, where like, like I'm lucky enough to know Tim McCamus now. Like I love the guy. I felt like Tim was ahead of his time as far as like advertising and stuff. But yeah, when we came in, like I had a buddy that had a really successful barbershop, like really good. And he kind of gave me a sit down. And was like, listen, bud, you need to post 3 times a day, and you need to just be at it and just, be on their necks. Right. And that's what we did. I knew that was our strength. We were young. We had to fight to get a chance. Right. Like, yeah, I mean, still, I don't look that old now. So imagine when I was like 25 years old and I come up to you, I'm like, hey, bud, I'm going to build you an X275 car. And it's going to be awesome. You're like, you're an idiot, So like all I had was our media in my pocket. Right. We worked for Jack Vanover. Jack Vanover, God rest his soul, just an honored friend. He gave us if we got a big break, Jack was the one that gave it to us. And I met him at Prize Fight at Ohio Valley, which would have been 9 years ago now. I had my cell phone with me, and I pulled out pictures of stuff that we had built, and we made a connection. Right. So I think to your point, like, every company is a media company first. That's what we are. And then whatever you're good at is after that. So yeah, to your point, that I knew it. We had to do it. And yeah,
it's tough, man. I mean, especially like really established business owners, like brick and mortar business owners that have been doing what they do for decades or whatever, it's a tough pill to swallow, because it's like, well, I'm really good at what I do, or we have the best in class product or whatever, but we're getting our clocks cleaned by this dude in his parents' garage because he's got 2 million followers on Facebook and YouTube or whatever. And I think it's an interesting like lesson, because I feel you guys are kind of that triple threat type of deal where you're active on the racetrack and successful on the racetrack. And I think that's something that is a little bit of a lost art in this modern era of big corporate roll-ups and conglomerates. Sending people to the racetrack to support customers is kind of low on the priority list, but I see you making that a priority. That's one thing. I'm dear friends with Rick and Ricky Jones, and RJ Race Cars, that's something they pride themselves in, is they're going to go to the track and sweat their balls off with their customers and struggle and bust their knuckles and, make 4-link changes and do everything they can to ensure the success of their customers. And that something I do believe is a little bit of a lost art. So like I said, the triple threat thing, you're at the track, not only racing, but supporting your customers. You've got the media on lock, no doubt. Your vocal, personality driven operation. And then thirdly, you guys have developed products. Like it seems quite frequently I hear somebody, whether it's Jimmy Dale or Poland or somebody else, like, oh, going to Tin Soldiers to get this, or just ordered that from Tin Soldiers. And I'm like, because that was something that Tim McCamus and Jerry Bickle were well ahead of their times on, and there's a lot of opportunity in parts. Like I think a lot of chassis shops swing that garage door open and hope that they're going to build a 110, 12-inch wheelbase Pro Mod car. They're going to start building top sportsman cars, but the opportunity really is in parts and building parts that you can sell to a big group of people and not have to install them, not have to have a car take up a bay in your shop, not have to deal with all of that. So I give you a serious tip of the cap, man, because I think you guys have done a really masterful job in arriving at the position that you have. How important is racing? Like Charlie Brown, the shop car, I do want to put a little caveat in here. If that thing's ever for sale, Wes Buck's buying. Okay. So I mean, literally, like, I think it's like one of the coolest car. I'm a Pro Mod guy, no doubt. But when you talk about something that's just got it, whatever it is, from the stance to the colors, to the name, to the fact that it's got a big block nitrous motor in it, like it's everything that I think a race car is supposed to be. But how important is racing to your efforts, racing yourself?
It's top priority, man. If you don't, we're still in the business of win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And people don't want to buy parts. Like we don't build cars really anymore. I have some stuff that we work on here and there, but not a lot. I'm not trying to actively do that. But if you're going to buy a 4-link setup from a guy and you're buying it for a small tire race car, why would you not buy it from the guy that just went out and won, right? Like we have to be out there pounding the ground. And like the more laps that we put on that old 4-door, the more laps that our customers make, right? Like when you call Tin Soldier Race Cars, you talk to me. Like I have another kid answer for a little bit, but like if you have a tech question, you talk to me. Like we have one phone line, bro. Like that's so like the farther we go, the farther we all go, right? And like that's why I love our name, is like it doesn't have Brad or mine's name in it. Like it's not about us. It's about Tin Soldier as a unit, right? We're better together. And I want that for our customers, right? So if you own a race car parts business and you're not out there pounding the ground in all these different classes and sweating, like you said, like it's a whole family thing too. Like my wife works here. Brad's wife supports us. Like we have a partner, Heath, on Charlie. Like, dude, people miss the background of what it takes. I have 3 kids, right? Like, so like we do this as a family. My dad took me to the racetrack. I'm taking my kids to the racetrack, and we're going to keep this deal going because I want it to be here for my kids. Right. So it all has to work together. Every bit of it, from drag racing, the media, to our parts have to work, all that racing. This is what we do. If you're not passionate about what you do, go home,
100%, man. I think Mark Beatty, a good friend of ours here, and leads the marketing charge at Redline Oil. He says all the time, real knows real. And I think that's true. And this is a community of people that can sniff out a poser or a brother and sisters in arms like that. You know, like we recognize people that get it, that speak the tribal language, that know what they're talking about. I want to switch gears here a little bit because Jeff Thomas, who we had on the show a few weeks ago and was actually fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
Dude. He like, I was like, I've never talked to the dude ever before in my life. So having him on the show, you know, that's a little bit of a crapshoot. I'm like, okay, is this guy going to be on a potato phone? And like, can we hear him? What's he going to say? And he was actually an incredible interview, but it's kind of just turned our attention to what he's doing. And he made a post on Facebook that I thought was interesting. And it was recapping Gangsters Paradise this past weekend at Wagler Motorsports Park. And there was a line in there that I just wanted to get your opinion on. He said, no prep racing is in a bad place right now. And I'm curious, like, what do you make of that statement? Because admittedly, as someone, we're relative. I mean, we've followed small tire racing since day one. Since, I mean, the first issue of Drag Illustrated had multiple pages of coverage of Easy Street, Limited Street, Outlaw 10.5, kind of like the originating classes from Orska and the Southeast Brainerd Optimus Dragway, the Southeast United States. But this no prep, small tire no prep, by all accounts, I mean, looking at it from the outside, looking in, not massively ingrained in the community, that it looks pretty strong. I mean, every time I talk to Jimmy Dale, he's going to another race, or he's got 2 this weekend, or whatever. He's won 37 in the last 3 months, whatever the case may be, because the homeboy keeps track, right? And what's your take on that statement? Like, do you feel the same way? Because it feels like there's a lot of races going on. Is it just kind of the natural evolution? You have some shaky promoters come in, you have a couple bummer events, you have some bad news permeate that kind of clouds the good thing that's actually happening here?
Yeah, I think we're in middle school. And what I mean by that is, like, when we were young, everybody was excited. Nobody walked that good. We were just trying to figure out our stride, right? And that's an exciting time to be, because, like, nobody really knows how to get down the racetrack that great. The combinations aren't figured out, and anybody can win at any time, right? So now we're in middle school, and some of the kids have hit puberty, and they're 6 foot tall, right? And, like, they figured out, like, how to get this thing down this racetrack fast. But some kids, they haven't hit puberty yet, right? And so, like, these grown-up kids,
it's a good analogy, bro.
They're just like, they're picking on them, and, like, so the kids that are still little, they're like, I don't want to go play in that schoolyard no more. Well, what will happen is it's getting thinned out, which is okay, and, like, people are kind of figuring out their place, and, like, like small tire, like, guys get upset about it, like, oh, it's for the budget-minded person, it's for the, and it's just not anymore. Like, you have, like, if you're running on a 28-10-5 slick on no prep, small tire is the top tier class, right? Like, that is our Pro 275. So now you have Pro 275 cars that have decided to put 28-10-5s on them. And now you have talented people and companies that back them. And unfortunately, that does push out, the average person, right? Like, I was a kid with a Turbo OS 12 years ago. Well, I couldn't stay like a kid with a Turbo OS. I devoted my life, dude. And my partner devoted his life to be good at drag racing so that we could drag race. We have a drag race company so that we could drag race, right? So, like, that's why racing is important. We wouldn't have done this deal if we didn't want to go drag racing. So I think it's just trying to find its maturity. I think that we do have too many races. It's similar to when, John Sears killed it with X275. He's a dear friend of mine now, which I'm lucky to have that friendship with him. But think about back then, dude, how many people wanted to have small tire radial races? Then it thinned out. And I think right now, like people pick on radial, but I think it's actually pretty healthy, right? Like, the fields aren't as big, but the car quality is better. And we have a lot of customers that we help with that stuff. And, man, I love going to those races. And yeah, so I think we're just trying to find our maturity. And a lot of times, man, I think that in all of it, you're either building it, you're either laying bricks, or you're tearing them out. And, like, let's just build it, right? Like, let's build bricks. Let's build the foundation of
that foundation. You hit the nail on the head there, brother, because you see it across the board. Like, the important thing is developing that foundation so that you can withstand downturns, right? Because they're going to happen. Like they're going to come some way. Like it could come economically. It could come with a really rough weather season. It could come with increased competition and it thins the herd, as you mentioned. There's a lot of different scenarios where you may have you should have some casualties. You have some people fade into the background. But if you have that solid foundation, you can also the thing about it is it exists at every level. Like Top Fuel. Antron Brown and I were speaking about it this morning, and it was like, right now there's 19 Top Fuel cars at the NHRA Nationals in Norwalk this past weekend, and there are people going, oh man, I remember back when they used to have 30 or 40, but the quality is infinitely higher than it was in the 90s. And you also you've got this foundation where if you have some new team owners show up, or you have some new sponsors, or you have some new businesses created, that it will bolster that. But you're right. You've got to have that foundation. And it feels like, some of these stable promoters, guys that are reliable, like Jeff Thomas, and there are others. I mean, Tom Gunner is one of them as well, with Small Tire Gangsters has become like a real thing seemingly overnight. It's starting to stabilize in that regard. Corey Stamper puts on great events. I mean, you've got it coming together, and I think if we can kind of maintain and protect this base of guys and gals that are supporting this deal, whenever you have some newsworthy happening where some guys build cars or whatever, Cletus McFarland decides he wants to go no prep racing and all of a sudden he's showing up, you're going to have some new cars show up. But like building that foundation is really important. And I think you're right, because I'm seeing some consistency amongst winners. It's not just people I'd never heard of. It's some guys winning multiple races in a row, guys that are kind of making a statement. And I think that's important for the long-term health of the class, to have that foundational talent pool, so to speak, and build on it, but be able to withstand a few of those bricks, being torn out, as you mentioned.
Yeah, agreed. Well, and if you look at radial stuff, look at how many different classes there are, and so now, in no prep, they're working through figuring out classes, but you're not going to go to South Georgia with an Ultra Street car and run Pro 275 and expect to win. It's not right.
You might buy a tech car. Damn it! It drives me crazy with that tech car.
Yeah, hey man,
you're gonna go down there. You're gonna go down there and run Radio versus the World, but you're gonna buy a tech card for every other heads-up class, so you make sure you get those 77 runs in. But no, what do you think that's a perilous situation? It seems at times, because I'm a big believer in less classes. Yeah. I understand that part of drag racing's heritage and the tradition has been to get in where you fit in. Like my dad tells stories about going to racetracks and there wasn't a class for his car, so they just made one. Yeah. Right. They just well, hey, you're going to run in Z, double A, Z, whatever, and we're going to get you a trophy, and we don't really have anybody for you to run, but you're going to be in your own class. And I love that accessibility, but at the same time, I think the pathway to the future and the pathway to growth is to keep the talent and to keep the star power together, because I would be devastated to find out, and I'm sure that this has been experimented with in the past, but we need you racing turbo cars and blower cars, and we need nitrous car. We need all these, and we need the players in one pool, because what I see happen in some of these other classes of drag racing, and I wonder if there's a solution, and perhaps it's in the fact that there's no timing, there's no scoreboards. I think that has something to do with it, but it helps. But I don't want to see it become splintered, because like I said, we've spent the last 20 years of our lives trying to galvanize this sport, and it seems like anytime there's an opportunity to splinter, we splinter, and that's something I think has to be resisted. What do you think the class lineup should be because I'd like to see it just stay small tire, 28, 10, 5. This is what it is. The tracks, the no prep surface, and some of these marginal racetracks is the equalizer, and it is what it is. I mean, what's your take on class breakdown, and what is the equalizer in no prep racing right now?
Well, I think so. The thing that's tough is you can't control the events that the racetrack has. Okay, so at Gangsters Paradise this past weekend, Wagler doesn't operate a monthly program. So the last time that track got raced on was in October. So it was a very true no prep, right? Which serves well for the nitrous car, right? We can get it done to 330 foot, but it runs out of, it's a nice nitrous piece, but it still is going to run out of breath compared to a turbo, whatever. Right. So that's a great limiting factor. But if you go to a racetrack that, last week Donald Long was there, well, man, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what do you do with that? You can't control the racetrack. So I think that's where, we have to be careful. I think we should be more careful of how we schedule events, right? Like, if we're doing a radial race this weekend, probably not a great idea to do a no prep like the weekend after. Like, let's look at some schedules, right? I think that's a great idea. Class breakdown, like, I think that, everybody wants to put in a bunch of chassis rules. I'm a chassis builder, right? Like, that's what we do. Dude, a stock suspension Mustang is a pretty daggone good race car until you go Ducky Johnson car, D Marinas is right behind me.
Yep.
That thing has been sub 1, right? And it is a real stock suspension Mustang. It's got like square tube subframe connectors in it. It's a bad piece for what it is. So until you get to about 420s, that Mustang wheelbase, everything, pretty dang good race car. So I don't think a bunch of chassis rules is great, because I feel like when John Sears opened up to 4-link, like traditional, you saw the variety of cars come back to that, where before it was more just a Mustang class, right? Yep. And you still had Ron Rhodes that was doing it for the leaf spring guys, but it was a Mustang class. We don't want that in no prep. We need the variety of the cars. So it really comes down to weight versus, horsepower. That's what it is. Right? A nitrous car has to be lighter than a turbo car. I mean, it is what it is. So I think I would like to see some weight stuff come into play. I think that's kind of like our next, as we get into high school, right? Like,
yeah,
the problem is most of these facilities we race at aren't that great. So now you have the problem of not having scales, stuff like that. And it seems like the no prep guys get real tied up on the name of the class. Like Jimmy Dale wins daily driver all the time because the rule set fits his car. But is it a daily driver? No. Should we just name the class something different? Probably. Because that would keep people a little more like, from doing that. I would like to see that. I would just like to see more, consistency, to where the average guy in the garage is like, if a guy decided to build an Ultra Street car 6 years ago, Ultra Street is relatively the same as it. There's some differences, right? But that guy had a goal to build to, where no prep has never had that. It's just whatever, man. And then steel roof quarters on 28. That's fine if you want to ride the top level class, but you can't build a steel roof and quarter on a 28 car and put a stock bottom in 5.3 in it. It's just, it's just not going to happen.
No, it's a really interesting thing, man. And I think that your analogy to going through the education system is so true, because like we use those analogies internally. Like we talk like, oh, we just got our PhD after that debacle, but it's so true. And it is very early in its life cycle. And I think it'll be interesting to see what these next few years look like, because I know John Sears has gotten involved with Tom Gunner on Small Tire Gangsters. And I think that will bring a little bit an air of legitimacy to what's happening there, and it may bring some creative thinking to how we can keep some parity amongst the different combinations. But no, man, it's a really
John's just going to go around like to all the different. I mean, he's going to go into every sanctioning body and just make everybody mad eventually. Like
he's great at it, buddy.
He's working like every single one now, hasn't he? I mean, almost.
Well, I think what John's probably going to find himself doing is like having some sort of mobile. Like we should probably.
He's going to need security at some point.
Well, yeah, but I was saying like a scale thing, because you're 100% right about that. A lot of these tracks, they just don't have the infrastructure or the desire. They don't have it. There's no need for them to have the latest, greatest scales. There's no need for them to have that type of stuff, because it doesn't serve their purpose.
We just built a set for him one time.
Yeah, man. We actually had to build him a set of scales down in Bradenton a couple of years ago, because we couldn't get the pro stock cars on the scales, because there's a slight ramp onto them at Bradenton. So we had to build a second set of scales out of wood. But anyways, it's an interesting thing, man. And I'm really glad to see you at the forefront of this, because I think it takes some people that what's the word? Like inspire others. Go, you know what? This is a young guy getting it done, having success, winning these races, building a brand for himself, building a business. And I'm hoping that somebody else is sitting back watching this on YouTube and going, you know what? I got a MIG welder. You know what I mean? Like maybe I can figure some of this stuff out. And it's last question, Jason, and I'm just curious. We touched on it briefly, but we didn't go back to it. Was how much? And this is something we need to talk to Robin Roberts about as well. Actually, is Robert in the green room?
Yeah, let's bring it on.
Bring Robin on, because I want to talk about how much of a difference maker not having the scoreboards is, because I think that it's. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, fresh off a monumental win at the No Prep King Shootout this past weekend at Cordova Dragway, place near and dear to my heart. I spent most of my youth at Cordova. The one, the only, Robin Roberts. What's up, brother?
Hey, how are you? Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks for coming, man. I want to talk to you too real quick, and Jason will cut you loose. I'm sure you've got better stuff to do on a Wednesday afternoon. But I'm just curious, like how much I had a West Coast-based race promoter one time tell me that he felt his secret sauce to the success of his little event series that he had put together was the fact that they ran with the scoreboards off, and it kind of eliminated some of that everybody knowing that your shit's slow type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, because you didn't have to wear it. You're not going to have to see your be number 20 on the list of 16 cars that qualify. Like, it eliminates some of that, and it keeps like people's imagination going, because they don't know, that, Robin's Firebird has this guy covered by 4/10, right? They just go up there. And so I'm just curious, like, Jason, I'll go to you real quick. What's your take on the no scoreboards things? Because I'm telling you, I tried this. I tried to do no scoreboards at World Series of Pro Mod in Denver for 3 years, and the fans ripped me to shreds. They want to know everything.
Yeah,
so, I mean, what's your take on that?
Now, our fans are conditioned to it. It's kind of just part of the thing. But like, okay, let's talk about X275 and Ultra Street. Those are two classes near and dear to my heart. They'll have a race, and they'll be 15 numbers apart from number 1 to 32. I mean, you guys did a hell of a job at World Series of Pro Mod. And those guys, that is an extremely tight field. But then what happens is the racers take those tickets, and the good ones start looking at their back splits and their front splits, and they start, like, it's a constant battle in Ultra Street forums of like who's got the best, who's got the advantage of the split, right? And that conversation just sucks. Like, it just does. Like, you're constantly like trying to hide your ticket from another racer because you might have an advantage at some part of that ticket that you've been working on. Right? Like, you've been trying to 330 harder, and then we're trying to get it to 330 harder, and then we're trying to get it to run out the back. So we've tried 17 different gear ratios, different converter, and we finally found a couple numbers. Now this guy on the internet has a copy of my slip, and he's like, well, that is not fair, right? well, like, dude, we just don't need that. Like with no prep where it is now, like, I wouldn't mind that if the scoreboards came on. I don't think that's the most horrible thing, but I just don't want the racers to be able to have access to the tickets to where they can start looking at these splits, because that's really what screws us. Like, I think the fans like seeing it, but now too, like, if you're talking about a small tire no prep field, dude, there might be a half a second between the guy that's winning and the guy that's losing, and that's kind of why, like, I'll pick on Robin because he's here I love that they race on instant green. I like, people think like I'm a drag. I love Pro Tree, right? But drag racing is really not that interesting if everything goes right. It's just not. Two cars go down the racetrack. It could be a great race, but that guy taking a swing at it because he knows that he's 3/10 behind and he hits it on the dot, that's exciting. Or Limpy on the light and a guy takes a swing at it. That's exciting. Do you like it as a faster car? Absolutely not. Like, no. From a motor standpoint,
yeah, I'm just telling you, and everybody knows I don't like it.
But I think it's awesome. From a racer standpoint, I hate it.
Well, I hate it. All the small tire guys at their last big race, they went to 4/10 Pro Tree. Why did they do that? Because the same racers that said, I hate this, I'm tired of guys that are guessing, getting such an advantage because look, people don't understand the tree at all. When you talk about instant green, nobody understands how that works. They always say reaction time. Well, you can't react to something you didn't see. You can't. And so
exactly. That's the beauty of it.
and the point of it is, though, the tree, because all they do when it's a real problem is all they do is shut off the yellows, right?
Yeah.
So everything that's still in the timing system, and you guys have worked with this a lot, all of that is still there because normally we get a yellow a half a second before the green comes on, and you're going on the yellow, and that's how you hit. So that's a huge window when there's only a second half between 0 and the green to hit that mark. And look, people just don't like it, and racers that are fast don't like it, and that's just.
I think don't you think there's like, I mean, I think that there's. I don't want to say this and like be offensive to anybody, but like I think there's just levels to this stuff. Like, and I have this conversation with like a lot of MPK racers because I think when you get to the point of towing to Idaho, right? Like if you're 2,000 miles from home in your tractor trailer, you spent 10 grand on diesel, you flew in Steve Petty or Ricky Jones or whatever. You've got all this, and then you go up there and lose in the first round to a car that you should beat. Because I totally understand Jason's point. Like, and I actually, as a promoter, I can't argue with it. I've had this conversation with Sam Corcus. Like, I've had this conversation a lot with Sam. Like, I called Sam. I'm like, hey, dude, we got to run Pro Tree over there. Like, we got to. And he's like, nah, I like the drama. You know what I mean? And it's like, I get it, but at the same time, I think it's just kind of knowing, you know what? Thank you, Jason. It goes back to our school analogy. Where are you at? Are we in preschool? Are we in elementary school? Are we in middle school? Are we in high school? And I think where no prep, like small tire, no prep racing is, it's in middle school. And so it can probably absorb some of that controversy and make the most of it. But whenever you get up into college, where you've got $500,000 race cars and all these hired tuners and hired crewmen, maybe then you have to refine that a little bit. I mean, because I don't think either of you are wrong, but it is a very.
I wasn't meaning to bash him either. I get that. I just I'll speak up on the comment. Look in your comments and you'll see that people don't understand. Here's one that says 400, 500 pro sportsman is a guessing game. No, it's not. You're going on the yellow. That is not a guessing game. But we don't have that. And then you're talking about high paid tuners. You bring everybody in and there's something to, you're right, towing across the planet to race. And then somebody who didn't put the work in, didn't put the effort to make their car fast, beat you because, I mean, that's what aggravates a lot of the faster drivers. And it's unfortunate. And you mentioned Ricky. I'm glad Ricky was there this weekend. I love Ricky like a little brother. He built her car. He's awesome. And that my tuner Alan is here today. He'd probably come around here and say hello, but we come on in. So we just don't like that stuff. We put all our effort in our team. This is the only tuner I've got, man. Nobody else touches that laptop but this guy.
Well, and it's like, but I recognize what Jason said because it's all relative. Because I try to be mindful of that because it's early on in Drag Illustrated we used to always get like labeled as being elitist because we talked about pro mod a lot and blah 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 blah. And to me, like I grew up racing with my dad just like you, Jason. Like we were horrible bracket racers. We had very little success racing. Burn up a childhood and a bank account and everything, chasing the dream. But it's like I recognize that the effort and energy that Jason Terrell is putting in to go and racing Charlie Brown this weekend, it's all relative, right? Like it may be like, yeah, I know, right? I just told him it's mine as soon as it goes on. If it makes it to Racing Junk, I'm gonna be mad. So, but anyways, it's all relative, because I don't want to like downplay because I know, Joe Blow, no prep racer that I've never heard of or whatever. He's burning. I mean, he may not be towing to Idaho, but in his mind, the $200 he spent getting to XRP this weekend damn near broken, right? Yeah. And so I want to be mindful of that because I recognize that it's different and it's all context matters. I like to tell people context matters, and so the context, but it matters in the Pro Tree conversation because I'm going the context of where NPK has arrived. I mean, I think it could be argued. And I want to have this conversation with you, Robin, as well. But where that type of racing has arrived, it's not what it was 10 years ago. These aren't back half cars with big blocks and plate systems. You know what I mean? These are pro mod cars with steel roof and quarters with the latest, greatest stuff. And maybe it's time for that to evolve. I don't know, but it's a great conversation.
It's past time for it to happen.
It's possible. Jason's going to whoop your ass, JT. You can't bounce in here.
Whatever.
No,
come on.
Jason, what? No, hey, man. Jason, I just want to tell you thank you real quick. Seriously, congratulations on all your success. I think your story is amazing. I appreciate it. I would love to meet your partner, Brad, sometime. I read a lot about him this morning. I'm proud of you guys and genuinely happy for you doing it the right way, out here racing, supporting racers, and helping us grow. Because you're right. Like, we can go a lot further together than we can apart, man. So I'm genuinely happy for you and proud of you guys.
Thanks, man. I would say one thing, and then I'll get off.
You're good, bro.
It was really emotional to park the nitrous car in the winner's circle this weekend, and it was just emotional, man. Like everything we're going through, and it just, like you said, I didn't know them, right? But it just felt right to battle through a field of turbo cars and park that thing in the winner's circle, and we sprayed a lot of nitrous, so
it's and thank God for it, man. I mean, it's I think drag racing won't be the same without nitrous being like a prevalent combination. I think it's part of the theatrics of our sport. I love seeing you guys crack a bottle open on the winner's circle, a Nitrous Express bottle. Shout out to my boys down there in Wichita Falls. But like, it's you're right, man. And to do it this weekend, I mean, I think Lizzy was the last remaining nitrous car in PK. And so it was really cool for you guys to, and Jerry Bird. Yeah. So there's two. But yeah, it's a dying breed, unfortunately. And I was glad to see you represent them well this weekend, Jason. Definitely a big moment, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it felt good. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for,
of course, man.
Thanks for letting the small tire circus on the show. So
no problem, man. I'll see you at the next one. We're going to try to come to War in the Woods in the fall.
All right, rad.
JT, Mike, and I are all going to come.
Well, you should come. So War in the Woods is only 2 hours from our shop. I would love to have you on our podcast.
Oh, say when, lock it in. I love to talk. So if you want to talk about drag racing, I'm all for it, bro. So yeah, lock it in, brother. Thanks a bunch, Jason.
All right, boys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jason,
buddy.
See ya.
Robin, I'm curious, real quick, man. Mike mentioned earlier, and I it's a bummer of a conversation, and I don't want to, I'm really excited to have you on the show, and we got to talk about your win and everything that's going on with your program and no prep racing in general. But I think it'd be remiss not to give you an opportunity to, recognize one of your fellow competitors and a sister in arms in the no prep world. Mike mentioned the tribute you posted on Facebook as one of the most touching tributes that we saw. I'm sure touring across the country and the world in some instances with Lizzy, you guys developed a relationship. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, it's still hard to talk about. I'll kind of back up a little bit and just say we learned about it in Australia. We learned that she had a lump and that it had been found and that it was growing. I'll admit, like, I just never thought for a minute that it would get her. I just thought, well, she's going to recover. Everything's going to be fine. And she worked through different treatments and stuff. And at Empire Dragway, she came to Melody and said goodbye, which was, well, it just was unexpected. Even to say things like that, when someone says it to you, you think, oh no, you're going to make you're encouraging. You say the things that you should say, and you still don't think, because you just think optimistically. You just don't think that way. But you're right. We had really built a friendship. Melody really had, not me as much, but Melody built a great friendship with Lizzy over time through the struggle, and not as much as some, because there's an age gap there. But Lizzy was just an incredibly nice person. She smiled all the time. She did the little funny things that sometimes you laughed at, but and I'll tell you this though. And at times she would say things that were funny. And I remember one time she was holding a chip and it was a 6 and had the line under it, and they were calling 6. She had to look at it, and someone else would go, well, that's a 6. She goes, no, it's a 16. She goes, no, it's a 6. But if you let that stuff, I'll tell you this, if you let that stuff cause you to underestimate her, Oh, she was, when she got in that car, she was a different person. She was really good at driving that car and really good at what she did, and a really nice person, and someone that you just genuinely could enjoy at the track. And look, there are different types of people, and so not everyone gets along, and that's just normal. No one did not get along with Lizzy. She was just she'll be very missed. And I wrote that after all of us drivers got together the night before, and we just talked about things, and we had our moment of silence, our prayer together, and teary-eyed, all that kind of stuff as drivers, away from cameras, away from anyone who take pictures or fans or anything like that. And then I wrote that night, which was, to me, heartfelt from all of the drivers for her, and should just be sorely missed.
There's no doubt, man. There is no doubt, brother. And I think that was well said, because I've got all those, I've got stories like that too, of her just being a goofball, or, trying to get her to turn her phone sideways when we were doing this, having her on the show or whatever, or she's in some remote area with minimal internet connection, but by God, she's going to try to fight through, and we can hear every fourth word she says, and she's just laughing. And she will be sorely missed, man. And I just knew that being that you had been part of this scene for such a long time now, that it was important to give you the opportunity to recognize that. But let's talk about all the good things going on. You mentioned Ricky Jones joining you at Cordova. That's right down the road from RJ Race Cars in Galesburg, Illinois. What a weekend, man. I mean, it's the dog days of summer. Very tough time to go drag racing. Very tough time to go drag racing. Humid as the day is long there along the river in Cordova. I mean, you got to change shirts a dozen times a day. Take us through your race weekend, man, and just this season as a whole so far.
Yeah, I mean, the season, that was our fifth. We would have been in our fifth semifinal, which is really good for the number of races we had. We've done really, really well. We just couldn't crack the code, and to win. If we were going to win one event this year, though, it would be where my friend Ricky was there. Ricky's been a help for us in the car. He built that car for us. Their team, they don't build steel body cars, right? They build pro stock, pro mod. I had to talk him into it. There's a funny story behind that, how I got Ricky to help us do it, and I had to kind of twist his arm. But man, he helps us with chassis consulting and looking at data for us. He's just amazing. And to me, I have a great little brother, but if I could have another, I want it to be Ricky Jones. He's just a great person. And so it was great to win that race when he was there. For me, it was great to win the race, that, the emotional time of Lizzy and saying the prayer and all the things. And to me, it was just I still haven't quit smiling. I'm just so happy about that win in that race. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult. That track was tough, and it kept changing. It changed in ways you didn't expect it. And look, you can see that in the finals, where both of us had struggles getting down the track, because the track usually gets tighter in the evening. Well, it got looser. Yeah. And it was, it's one of those things about no prep that you're always chasing. Sometimes you're chasing, it does unexpected things to you. So, but what a great weekend.
What do you attribute that to? What do you think that was about? Do you think that the track, because it is historically, if I talk to you any other time, it's the track's getting tight, the day wears on, the sun goes down, more cars going down it. But what do you attribute that to?
Well, so I can attribute to maybe two things. First off, we thought it would get tighter than it actually did. And look, when you're racing someone as great as Sean, who's got a really fast car, and you're also, we kind of gauge top 5 fastest cars and we talk about it, right? Because that's when you race them, you got to be right. And so when you're racing, and we've already raced the night before, neck and neck, and the whole deal, you're both pushing everything to the edge on top of guessing what the track is doing. And I think it just didn't move as far as we thought it would. And we both were trying to beat each other. And so you throw the house at it.
That'll do it, man. And I just saw somebody in the comments post like daily driver, because that's one thing. Run order can sometimes affect these things quite significantally. You get a bunch of cars out there with, essentially aqua treads on them, and it's going to alter the racing surface. So no, but I do kind of, going back to what I was telling you that I had spoken to Sam Corcus about, was I do love the dramatic nature of MPK and how it just seems like it's very unpredictable. It's a constantly, I guess it's weird. As quick as you think Ryan Martin has the whole deal sewn up and no one's ever going to have a chance again, here we are with this, a whole slew of fresh faces in the winner's circle. It's been fantastic to see Sean Ellington murder Nova, as he is lovingly known. Like, I think it's important for the series to have that success spread around a little bit, because that was some of our concern. Is we've seen it with John Force, we've seen it with Erica Enders, we've seen it a multitude of times, we've seen it with the New York Yankees, we've seen it with the Patriots, right? People get a little bit put off by that perpetual seeming success. Like, I think that the local fan base loves a dynasty, right? Because they're going to the playoffs every year. They don't got to worry about it. But I think the outside fan base grows tired of it rather quickly. And it's been great to see, like, all of a sudden a diverse crop of winners in MPK. I'm curious, like, what's your overall take? It seems that there's a lot of movement in the MPK world right now, and I thought there'd be no better person to help us clarify some of these things. Like, there's been all sorts of hubbub about what's happening with Discovery Channel, what's the next step. Do you have any insight or opinion on what you think the future of MPK or No Prep Elite really looks like?
There are fans, hundreds of fans at every race ask me the same question. What about the TV show? What about this? What about that? And my answer is usually pretty similar, which goes like this: like, hey, I build generators. I'm really good at building generators. I have a great team that builds fantastic generators. I don't know how to make a TV show. I don't know I don't even know how to promote it or whatever. So I don't know anything really about that. And I don't. I know that our form of racing, you would think that the TV show would have been the maybe some people would think, well, that's the driver of it. Well, obviously it isn't, because look at Kansas City when we were here. It was packed. Last few races, weather always impacts it. Like, if the weather shows a big chance of rain, it impacts the crowds. But where we didn't have that, we're still packing the house. We're still having a lot of fun with it. The same race, the best racers are still there. It's still a challenge. And you're right. We have a Michael Jordan in our sport, and he's really good. So you need the Sean Ellingtons to step up. You need the other teams that step in once in a while. And there are some great racers in there. So I don't know. I just have a lot of fun with it. I don't know.
I think you make a really good point, Robin, because it's like, a lot of times these, like, television shows, they serve as a catalyst. Like, they're really important early in the process. And like, I certainly can make a case right now for how important broadcast, like especially cable television, like network television, is or can be. But I've also seen things be on television and have all this pomp and circumstance and big platform and fall flat on its face. No one cares. So it's interesting. It's not universal. There's no one size fits all with that type of thing. And I can't help but wonder, watching from afar, a little bit, a 30,000 foot view, like, maybe Discovery served its purpose, right? Perhaps it was what we needed to get this brand of drag racing in the conversation. Because you have guys,
he lifted all the boats.
Lifted all the boats. I couldn't agree more. I think about people like Alex Laughlin comes to mind. This dude was racing a Nitro Funny Car last year, full pole, living his childhood dream, and he opts to pursue this. To pursue No Prep racing, because it looked like as good or better of an opportunity for him as a small business owner and, someone who operates a business in racing. So it's like, I think that's very telling, and who knows where this goes. We're coming up on the 70th running of the NHRA US Nationals. And if you compare and contrast, like, impact on pop culture inside of the last decade, there's no comparison. Right? There's absolutely no comparison. The biggest star in drag racing for 100 years, it would seem, was John Force, who's 75 years old, and it's so to see this fresh, this new crop of stars that are selling merch, selling tickets, drawing audiences, drawing ratings, drawing viewership. I think it's I think it's significant, man. A lot of people sleep on it. I think it's rooted in jealousy. I think anybody that has bagged on Street Outlaws or No Prep Kings historically, it's rooted in jealousy. I mean, I'm man enough to admit that it's like, oh man, what we do is just as cool as that. We should be on TV. I get it, but you're right. A high tide lifts all boats. And I think No Prep Kings has, in many ways, it's made it what I see there that I like is they have made it fashionable to be a gearhead. They have made it cool to wear Dickies, have a shop towel in your pocket, to have greasy fingers. Like now that had faded. I graduated high school in 2002. And I remember like me driving to school in my small block powered S10 pickup truck. I was a weirdo. I was like I was definitely not part of the cool kids club. Whereas I think if I did that now,
I graduated in 87, it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. So it ebbs and flows. And I think that we are seeing a time now where all of a sudden car culture, I mean, I think about Tesla talking about horsepower and posting, their promotional tools is showing their Tesla Cybertruck on a drag strip. Like it's a relevant measuring stick. Like people know what it is, and it's become more of a part of pop culture. The commercials, the various TV shows. I mean, this is a really great time to be a part of the sport of drag racing. I think it may be the all-time high tide moment.
I agree. I mean, I'm a kid who started out too poor to drag race at a track, so I just street raced, and then here we are to see what that became through the TV show. And you're right, it brought it along and made it super popular. We used to only talk on forums and nobody cared. We raced in the middle of the night and nobody cared. Nobody saw it. Yeah. With the advent of cell phones and video and YouTube and internet, and people started talking across these cities, and then here comes the TV show. And you just look at what that did for people like Summit, Jags. I mean, go down the list, the car builders. I mean, it's amazing.
I mean, think about all the merchandise that show has sold. All the Proline shirts and Fuel Tech shirts and I mean, right? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. You see the line outside of Sean, Ryan, and those guys, it's unreal. And Sean and Ryan are both of those guys where they will stand out there until that line is gone. They'll stay out there till 3 a.m. if they had to, till that line is gone, because they know what the fans mean to the sport. And you take that from the street to where we're taking it to the track. You couldn't do that at the street because, of course, you can't have people at a street race. So this part of it, it just once again, like everything else, brought it up one more time. It brought in more racers, more ability to have more races. You don't have to commandeer a road and get the government to approve. You can just go to a track because they do that on a track. Like you bring these people to the fans. I just think it's been amazing, and it is an amazing time to be in drag racing. I've loved the sport my entire life, and for it to be like this and to be a part of it, man, it's a dream. It's a childhood dream come true. I told my grandpa, I'm going to build the fastest streetcar in America. And he said, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard.
What do you make? So it feels like there's a movement right now to like, what's the word? I think, and I saw it in the comments, and I think it's close to the reality, is that for the longest time or since its inception, Street Outlaws, No Prep Kings have been more show than anything. Like it was designed to be a show. And it feels like there's an opportunity in this moment to kind of evolve into a real sporting, like a real meaningful sports league, so to speak. I'm just curious, like, do you feel that opportunity is there? I mean, ticket sales would tell me it is. Fan interest would tell me it is. But do you feel like that's kind of like, I know you're, like you said, you're not here to make TV shows or put on races necessarily. You're here to win them. But just when you put on your promoter hat or your looking forward hat, do you feel that opportunity exists to carry this from the early TV origin to a meaningful competitive series?
Sure. And I think that's partly the following that the people have that are a part of it. Just Sean with 3 million plus fans, all that kind of stuff. They really drive that component of it. And I think it's going to stay there. Now, is it going to evolve into live? Because that was the other question. Like before, people would come up to us and say things like, hey, don't tell me where you are in the standings. I don't want to see it. I want to watch it on the show. And now you've got it live on YouTube where you can just immediately access and see how it goes. And that's starting to grow. And so, I'm hoping the popularity and things that we do just continue to show out, and by all processes, it looks like it will.
I mean, we've heard a lot of fans really speak highly of the YouTube live stream, and I don't know where that ultimately ends up.
My mom can watch the race.
Exactly, and follow along as it happens. Like I've had a lot of people that are really close to it. Nolan from Iski, Paul Donahue from or Dunlop from No Limit Drag Racing.
Yeah.
Those guys have told me in the past, like, dude, it's a game changer to be able to watch along live and actually see what happens and not have to be waiting for weeks or have to do the spoiler alert because you know what happened and it hasn't aired yet. And I know that all of you racers have heard that for years. Like, oh man, I hate having to wait to find out what happened. So I wonder if the answer or what it will ultimately become is I would see those worlds colliding. Like, I think that that's what the future holds, is the production level that you saw from Discovery Channel and Pilgrim Studios, you know, arriving in the live stream format. Like, that's what I anticipate seeing in the future, is bringing some of that storytelling, narrative driven content to the live stream. Because it's like, you know, early in the season,
I would invite to the races, I used to have to warn them. I'd say, here, you have to understand, if you're going to come watch this race, you've been to NHRA and all that kind of stuff. Remember that this is a TV show. You're coming to watch a TV show be filmed. And so there's a lot of lag times where if they were filming, things would lag. And today, and what we're doing in it, like even the last race, like they're moving the rounds really quick. They're moving them really quick to get to the live feed. Like, it just changed the dynamic. You asked about how it impacted us racers dramatically in that time frame, because the time in between the rounds is fast now, where they used to use that to go around and get camera time with people. Now it's like get back up to the line. And I also like the fact that people get an unfiltered access to the drivers, which, you know, there's some editing that kind of went on to make things more dramatic. Well, now all that drama is right there in front of you, and you can see that that's really what happened. And it's crazy. Jerry Berg gets in a big fight with guys at the end of the track. You know, you get it, and hopefully we'll get more cameras where that becomes, you get to see it. You get to see really who we are, and it's an emotional sport, and it's an emotional group of guys, and we were all kind of picked to be in that group for reasons that are different than the other guy, and it's fun that way.
I agree, man. And that's, I've said that to a lot of folks in recent weeks. It would seem is drag racing doesn't need much help. Like, because this is it, like you said, a highly emotional group of people, right? Yeah. Big personalities that are also pot committed. That's something. Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that we sleep on sometimes. Like, hey, these are massively competitive people. They're daredevils. They're risk takers, but they're also like pot committed. They're 2,000 miles from home with a freaking $500,000 racing operation. Like, they take this seriously. We don't need any help creating drama. It's going to come on its own. So I'm excited to see the evolution of this brand of drag racing, because ticket sales and fanfare kind of tell me everything I need to know. And that seems to still be headed in the right direction. And I'm excited for the future of it, man. Do you ever, like, are you at a point, this is a question I remember asking Ryan Martin many moons ago, but like, for all intents and purposes, are you at the highest level of racing that you want to be at? Like, is this the top of the mountain for you, or do you see something beyond this? I'm just curious, like, your perspective on this place in your career.
You know, I was the dumb kid that always just wanted to be a street race guy. And I never liked anything but factory bodied cars you could do stuff with. So this just fits who I am. So it is maybe the top of where I am, but I might venture into some other things to have fun. I'm blessed in that I can do that, right? I'm going to do this because I love it, and I'm going to do this because I enjoy it. And I'm here because I enjoy it. I'm not here for any other reason. I don't have to be. So I love the sport. And so, you know, I don't want to go Top Fuel racing or anything like that, but you know, I
know what you're talking about. He's
pro mod. I think he's wanting to get a pro mod.
Homeboy's talking about the pro mod racing. He's trying to get that certified badass stamp.
Man, I see those pro mod guys. I do want to go whoop them. I'm super competitive. Like, not only that, but I want to go race with the best all the time. I feel like I'm racing with the best in this group, the best in the world. I'm racing against in this pod, and sometimes we'll go over go over there and I'm competitive enough that I played sports in college. Like, I want to go over there and whoop that guy. Like that's how it's just part of it.
100%, man. Well, I like the way I like the way this conversation is going. Robin, thank you so much. Congratulations on your success. I look forward to seeing you down here in Texas when you guys get in this neck of the woods. Maybe sooner than that. I'm not sure, but congrats on everything, dude. Tell everybody hi, especially your better half, and I look forward to seeing you at the racetrack.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Well, hey, guys, I want to take a second here. I'm a little late on the gun on this, late on the draw, and give a huge shout out to our sponsors. I want to give a shout out to Redline Synthetic Oil for supporting our program, supporting Drag Illustrated and all of our various endeavors, as well as the entire sport of drag racing. When you look around, they're the headline title rights sponsor of the Professional Drag Racers Association, making a splash everywhere they go, and it means a lot to me. Support the companies that support the sport of drag racing, and Redline Synthetic Oil is certainly one of them. I also got to give a huge shout out to Tommy and Anita Cunningham, Mama Sue, Larry, the whole team, John Gentry, everybody up there at Oklahoma City Stroud Safety, the world leader in 100% American-made safety equipment. Make sure you log on to StroudSafety.com. Tell them we sent you. Parachutes on the back of the fastest door slammer in the world. These people care about keeping racers safe, and it means a lot to me. And much like Redline Synthetic Oil, spread their support around the sport of drag racing. It's an incredible thing to see that blue Stroud logo on the back of Erica Ender's car, see it on the back of a Top Fuel car, see it on the back of a Pro Mod car, see it on the back of every sportsman car under the sun. They do a fantastic job painting a wide swath, and we appreciate their support. Guys, Mike, you didn't get a word in edgewise there with Robin or I or Jason. Are you still here, or are you just resting your voice?
Yeah, man, I couldn't. Yeah, I'm resting my voice too. You can't with Jason, man. He had a lot to say too. These small tire no prep guys are wound up when we get them on here on the show. I love it. I love the excitement and enthusiasm, and Robin is great as always. So I was just
absolutely fantastic.
You handle it, man.
I appreciate it, dude. JT, you had to pop in there. I could tell what Robin Roberts is saying. I don't know if you guys are reading between the lines or reading the tea leaves, but Homeboy's trying to go pro mod racing.
It sounded like it, didn't it?
Yeah. Homeboy's trying to go pro mod
We're all for that, man. We're all for that.
I really am, dude.
The crossover of, MPK and other forms of racing. I mean, our next guest has talked a little bit about doing that same thing.
Our very next guest, and thank you for the segue. I'm flirting with him hardcore. I'm gonna get it done before it's all said and done. I want to see Antron Brown in a Pro Mod car at the World Series of Pro Mod, hopefully this year or early next, excuse me. But without any further ado, I want to give Antron a shout out for taking the time. He's been on a bit of a media tour today. It's cool to see these things happen. I love on the heels of a big NHRA national event, all these drivers having these media opportunities. It's really important. We heard Jason Terrell talk about it, that you're in the media business whether you like it or not. I don't care if you sell staplers, whether you drive race cars, whatever your business is, you're in the media business, and you better lean in or someone else will lean over top of you. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Antron Brown. All right, guys, we've got another special guest in the house today. I'm excited about this one because JT and I were actually talking about this in the green room. We need this cat to host a podcast on Drag Illustrated because big energy, tons of excitement and enthusiasm, kind of really fits in well around here. Fresh off a win at the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals in Norwalk, Ohio. The one, the only Antron Brown. Antron, what's up, buddy? You're sounds like you're doing the press tour, and that type of thing makes me really happy. Like, what do you make of the responsibilities that come after winning one of these big races? Like, you're doing all these different podcasts, and I'm sure NHRA's got you doing all sorts of appearances. Do you enjoy that part of the game?
I do, because we get to tell the story of our sport, and it opens up doors to talk to different people and new people. And Wes, speaking about new, this was the coolest thing at Norwalk, Ohio. I had several families that came up to me that's never been to a motorsports race in their entire life. No form of motorsports. Not an old school fan, not a drag racing fan, not a NASCAR fan. And Bill Bader did something unbelievable where he just started putting stuff out there and going to different neighborhoods and telling about experience and saying, this is a must-see event. And if you come and you don't like it, I'll give you a money-back guarantee.
No joke.
Brother, I am not lying to you. It was like, it blew my mind. It was people came up to my pit and go, we don't even know what drag racing is. We don't even know what race cars or anything in motorsports is. And he goes, we've got this deal, this promo to come do this deal, money back guarantee. And we say, well, heck, we want to give it a try as entertainment. And they go, we've never seen nothing like this in our entire life. They were blown to bits. And they literally came up to me and go, you are our first drag racing hero, and we love you, Antron. We don't know anybody at this racetrack, don't even know motorsports, and you're our guy. And
that type of stuff, dude, it gets me in my feels, because that's really what's needed. Like, and that's a practice, to be honest. Like, and I'm not saying this to, like, you know, browbeat anybody, but that's a little bit of a lost art, AB. Like, going out and really beating the brush and being one of those, you know, feet on the street promoters. Like, that is how this deal is done. And to hear about that, I mean, the money back guarantee, like, I'm a little bit of an internet marketing nerd, and that's like the go-to program. Like, if you're launching a weight loss program, if you're launching a new anything, a mastermind, almost always you want to build into your offer a money back guarantee, because that shows that you're quite proud and quite confident in what you're doing. And that is something that I hope some people are paying attention to, that, because going out into the community and putting tickets or promos in front of people that there is no risk. I mean, holy moly. And clearly the proof's in the pudding. Like, I can't imagine that that's a common occurrence at an NHRA national event where you're getting that amount, you know, enough that you're seeing it and feeling it, of brand new race fans, right?
Absolutely. And what it does is it's the multiply effect, man. It's the effect, like, those three families come back, they're going to go back home and tell some other people. And this is Bill Bader. Like, literally, he told us this himself. This is his mindset. This is his plan. I mean, this is a visionary that this guy is. And he had a lot of great things to say. You know, we met with him and talked with him, and it was just awesome, man. It was just, like, awesome. His mindset on the way he loves this sport. Like, I love the sport. You like being around, like, people like yourself. You love the sport. JT loves the sport. When you get around like-minded people that think the same thing and have the same passion, you make stuff happen. And it was a breath of fresh air, because I saw right there, that's how you get our sport to go and make it in every household sport. Like, our sport's already is America's sport, but we're really going to dig deep and make it more where people go, hey, I love it. It's going to be like football. Football is an American sport, not soccer. I mean, football here. And that's what drag racing is.
I say it, the intro of this show, people pick on me. I say it all the time. Like, drag racing is the great American motorsport. And I'm curious, like, do you agree? Like, sometimes I wonder if I'm just a complete space cadet and everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. But I literally had a conversation this past weekend with some friends out in Las Vegas. And it was like, I see no reason that drag racing is not a household sport. Like, everybody drag races. Like, every man, woman, if you've got a driver's license, and probably several people that don't, if you've driven a car, you know what it's like to be in a speed contest. You've pulled up to a stoplight and looked over and said, not today, right? You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even know they were in a race, Antron, right? And I think about my grandma. I have this vivid memory of my grandma, Verna, riding down the road with her to this little town in Missouri where she lived. And she whipped out and passed this old gal on the highway. And, like, she was giddy. She's 75 years old. And it's that type of thing to me. Like, our sport really translates better than folks really want to acknowledge. Like, we talk all the time about the sensory experience that is being at the races, but, like, it's a very relatable thing. You don't have to go 300 miles per hour to have an appreciation for this type of thing. And I think about, like, look at Top Fuel right now, bro. I mean, obviously, and I mean, exactly. and we gotta, if you think about this, and if you really think about the NHRA pro ranks, and in many regards, drag racing as a whole, pro level drag racing as a whole, but, and I want to give a quick shout out where John Force, the whole Force camp, we're thinking about you guys, and we were missing Brittany this past weekend in Norwalk. But if you look, I mean, you've got journeyman do-it-yourselfers, you've got small business owners, you've got guys that have been there for generations, you've got relative fresh faces, you've got young men, young women, I mean, it's just such a diverse group of people that, I mean, I went to the Power Slap event, that deal where they slap each other really hard this past weekend, which is absolutely bonkers. But I was having some conversations with some of the team members at Power Slap, and I said, think about this. You guys have this incredible new sport, right? And you have this huge vision for the future. But it's very segmented. Like, Paige Van Zant, this young blonde-headed lady, she's got to compete against another equally sized, equally kind of skilled person, right? We don't have those limitations. We can have Paige Van Zant race, competing against, I don't know, Hulk Hogan. Like, we don't have those limitations because the cars kind of become they level the playing field, so to speak. I mean, in what other sport do you see people of every race, creed, color, man and woman competing against each other competitively? It's a magical thing. And I'm glad to hear that, because it feels like the conversation that I continue to come back to with folks is that there's a lot of people that are really happy with where we're at. And I think being proud of where our sport has arrived, I mean, it's a great thing. Look how far we've come. 70 years of the U.S. Nationals. Like, it's amazing what this sport has become. I'm looking at you right now, Matco Tools. You've got corporate sponsorship. This is a big business. But I want to hear you say it. Like, do you also agree that there's a lot more out there for all of us?
Oh,
I do.
Absolutely. We're just literally we're just touching the size of the iceberg. Like, our sport was beyond itself in the 80s and 90s. It was out there. Like, you had big multi-million-dollar deals where they spent like a quarter of the budget to run the race car, and he had 3/4 of the budget to build their infrastructure, like with buildings, like properties, and doing different stuff. Now it's caught up where we're just trying to stay corporate wise with the sponsorship money. We're just trying to stay afloat to keep it level. Like, we're trying to keep the boat level. And I'm at the level playing field, and I work my tail off every day, every night. Like, if you look at my social media, you never see me sitting still. I'm never stagnant. I am everywhere and anywhere, and I'm doing speeches. I'm showing up at conventions. I'm doing this. I'm a salesman.
Speaking to Congress, right?
Yes,
You're going to DC, right? You're doing it all.
Door-to-door salesman. Like, I do it all, baby. This is my suitcase is full, and I got a bag of tricks. Which one you want? You get what I mean? So, like I could roll the carpet out. I could fix this, do this. I could tell this, because that's what I do. But I love it. This is what we do. And now you see the stuff that's coming on the horizon. Like, for me personally, with all the race teams, professional race teams, and NHRA, I call it the Glenn. Like, we can call it like the Glenn Cromwell. Like, has come in with Evan and all the staff, and they have taken it to another notch where they're being a part of everybody's mission. They're actually really walking the walk, because they live it, eat it, sleep it every day. And the racetracks now are getting more involved. All of our teams are getting more involved. Like the pro, like our whole pro superstar shootout race that we had on the off season this year, which is going to go more and more. Like, teaming up with Drag Illustrated, with Flow. Now we have so many different things that we're all coming together. And now what I'm seeing right now is the growth is like, now the ball is getting bigger. We're filling it up. The balloon is expanding, And brother, I go on airplane flights, and it's just me. Like, I'm sitting up in the airplane, people come over and goes, "Hey, be a good race this weekend." I'm like, "What?" I'm walking in a supermarket. People know who I am. Like, the thing about it is like, now I'm like, I'm feeling kind of weird now, man. I might need security around me a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's getting.
But that's what, dude. It makes me feel so good to hear you say that, because this shit drives me. Like, Antron, in my eyes, bro, you're a hero. You're an icon, and like, that's how I want you to walk around an airport and have to, shoo people away. I want you to have to get up from dinner and take pictures with fans. Like, that's what I think you guys deserve. Like, that's what I want for this sport, and it's not just for you. It's for everybody that's competing at this level, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that building stars, that's how our sport will ultimately transcend. Like, that's how we will break through to pop culture. It's never going to be about clutch discs. It's never going to be about horsepower. It's never going to be about trap speeds. It's going to be about some relatable story of someone overcoming the odds or fulfilling their dream or whatever the case may be. That's the story that we've got to tell. And you guys have found, I mean, I agree. I think the NHRA is doing a fantastic job with improving the way they promote and present their stars. There's more storytelling, more content driven stuff. And it's an exciting thing. And I do want to say that, man, the entire pro group, I know you were deeply involved in the Pro Superstar Shootout. I want to believe that we tore some walls down. That's something that Richard Freeman and I have talked about a ton, is that we've got to tear these walls down, because it felt like if you go to, and this isn't, exclusive to NHRA. I don't want anybody to feel like we're picking on this particular sanction or series, but there really is a lot of tunnel vision that exists in our sport, and necessarily, like, I understand it, but if we want to get to where I know we can go, we've got to join forces. And I think that's what I see happening. I mean, you're talking about Cromwell and Evan, Jonat, and the team at NHRA embracing that role, a real partnership. That's what it takes, bro. I mean, we're all in this together. And if we really, truly want to, if we believe the shit we say, we've got to work together, because there is a big, bright, shiny future for the sport of drag racing. Like I'm not a big, drag racing is pretty much the only motorsport that I regularly consume. But I will tell you that if you go watch, I mean, a couple weeks ago, we had the Kentucky Derby. It's measured by an inch, thousandths of a second. I'm like, dude, we do that every weekend. Our races are always this close, right? We don't need to wait for a special historical moment to have that type of competition. No. We have, I mean, I say this, but the best thing that could possibly happen in a NASCAR race is a drag race breakout. I mean, that's what they're praying for. They're sitting in the tower going, God, I hope two cars come out of that final turn side by side, drag racing toward the checkered flag. And I think about, like, all these other sports are hoping that happens. We make it happen every weekend, baby. Brother, and it's there.
Like, did you just think about what you're saying? Like, look at Norwalk. Like, you had to run an 80 with a 1 to make the Top Fuel field, top 16 cars. And number 1 was a 69. We were separated by 11 hundredths. Josh Hart didn't get in, and he went at 80 with a 2. He missed it by 1,000th of a second. Then there was another car that went at 80 with a 3 that missed it. We had 19 Top Fuel cars, and the slowest car was like an 81. Or something like that. Like,
it really is. That's been a common kind of theme in 2024 that I wanted to talk to you about. Again, congratulations. Like, first off, before we dive into the competition aspect of, Top Fuel in general, especially this last so far in 2024, I'm just curious, like, how much sweeter are these wins as a team owner? Like, your personality hasn't changed, but you do have a different weight about you, just being honest. Like, I can tell that this is a much different endeavor now that you're signing checks and operating a major business. I'm just curious, how much sweeter are these wins as a team owner?
Man, you really just soak after a win now and just think about where you're at and what it took. And we're on our own. You know what I mean? Like, we're all on our own. And when you get that win, man, is one of those deals where it really breaks you down and really makes you think on how you got there. You know what I mean? It's like, brother, man, I'm just trying to keep the cash flow right, and knowing what to pay what, when to pay what, and to pay it on time, and to do different things and showing up, and then also building morale around you and keeping the crew guys afloat and keeping their mindset right and handling things a certain way. And it's a whole new level of chess. You get what I mean? When I used to be a driver, man, I played checkers every day. It was easy. You made one jump moves, bam, bam, like go to the gym, go home, eat a good meal, do this, like pay my home bills, do that one day a week. I'm out. I could do this, do that, work on this, stop by the shop. Hey, man, what's going on? Everybody, bam, boom, boom, bam. Leave. Oh, go do this sponsor engagement, come home. That's it. That was the life set. You know what I mean? Simple. Now, I came back from Norwalk, got home at 1 a.m. in the morning on Monday morning, 1 a.m. Slept in my bed, woke up at the shop. I got to the shop. Like, I was out already running errands. Like, I left the house at 8:30, and I was running errands all over the place, and got to the shop by 9:30. And then I ended up being in the shop. I thought I was going to leave the shop by 4 yesterday afternoon or whatever it is. I didn't end up leaving here till 7:30 last night. Got home, did a couple things in my own personal shop, laid on the couch at 9:30, fell asleep on the couch. You get what I mean? With my dog, because he hasn't seen me, because he's looking at me like, where you at, AB?
Yeah, where you been, bro?
Woke up this morning, and then
right on the media grind.
Again, like back on the grind. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the difference, man. And paying bills, invoicing this, getting that. Like, talking to my assistant Christine up in the front, like she's got everything going. Chuck like, AB, what you got? We got this. And going out here with the hospitality boys, messing with them, and seeing some of the guys out there. And then back in the back, got the Hendricks County. I mean, it does not stop. And like you're going, when do you ever get that break, ever take that breath? And that, I guess that's the biggest thing about what makes it so much more meaningful, is because when I get to the racetrack and I get in the race car, that is my happy spot. That's when I can literally have the excuse to shut everything off in my mind.
Can't answer your phone in a Top Fuel dragster.
No, you can't, brother. And you shut off life. You shut off life. And literally that 3.7 seconds, everything is like still. Even though it's happening so fast, it's so still. The tree, I could see the filament lighting up in the LED bulb when it's coming on, and you're hitting it. I can't see it blinking, but I can see it come on. You know what I mean? I'm not that good, but
well, clearly very good. I mean, let's talk a little bit about just the competition level that exists in Top Fuel today. A few weeks ago, Tony Schumacher was interviewed on the Top End. I can't remember if it was Bruno Massel or Amanda Busick, but one of them kind of posed the question, is this the greatest era of Top Fuel drag racing? And like, I'm here to cast my vote as yes. I mean, I understand that we've had many heroes, and a lot of the biggest names that are known in our sport have come and gone, and this is a new era. But what we lack in quantity, and I mean, this weekend, 19 cars is nothing to bat your eyes at. But I'm curious, do you subscribe to that belief that this is as tough as it's ever been? I mean, I don't know how you could argue against it, to be honest.
No, like absolutely not. Look at the races we have. When you have people like start from the pro shootout race, 8 cars. Steve Torrance didn't qualify, 4-time world champion, did not qualify. When would you ever see that happen? Then you go from there. Brittany Force didn't qualify for a race where she got all 4 qualifying rounds. Josh Hart, who won the game, like the Gator Nationals years ago and won some shootout races, contended for a championship, did not qualify at the last race. Like you get what I mean? Like you got people 1,000%. You got people like look at the people that done their homework. You know what I mean? You go back and you got Trip Tatum coming out, making the show, running really, really good. He had a race where he qualified at before, but he comes out and shows out. Then you have TJ Zizzo.
Yeah.
Look at him. Like
in Chicago,
he's out there coming up even this race.
Yeah.
He went first round. He outran whoever he was racing. Just got beat on a whole shot, but he went 332 miles an hour and like could have beat anybody else first round. You get what I mean? Like
100%.
Like we have the competition level is ridiculous. Like if you go from one race to the next, you have some people that might show up and make it to the semis or the finals, but you do not know who's going to win any race you show up to. You don't know.
Oh, how sweet was it like to take out Doug Coletta? I think that our sport like universally loves Doug Coletta. I think he's just this kind of soft-spoken, quiet guy. He's widely regarded as one of the best drivers out here. He can drive anything with wheels or wings, it would seem. But it had to be with the resurgence that team has had, and not even like this explosion that they have had on the heels of bringing in Brian Hewson, Alan Johnson, obviously winning his first championship last year, looking like a world beater. It's got to be. I know AB well enough to know that that's exactly who you want in the other lane. Like if we've got to outrun anybody, I just as soon it be him.
You want the best of the best, and we raced a lot of the best to get there. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know. And but when you get to that final round, the Coletta team is where you're going to have to go through to win this championship this year. They've got two strong stallions. They're like in the top 3 of points. You got Langdon and you got Coletta, and Langdon's car is running right there too. I mean, they've won races this year. They started out the year trumping it. You get what I mean? And
100%.
And that's what you're going to have to do. You know what I mean? And brother, I'm looking at it and I see it and I smell it and I'm going, man, when you come up here and you make it there with Alan Johnson, brother, he throws down. He's not scared. I mean, just think about this mindset of Alan Johnson. I don't think the fans can even relate or know what I'm saying. Everybody wants to do stuff to make the show. Think about it. You're not in the show. You smoke the tires, Q1, not in the show. First pair out. The track conditions are right. The next day shows rain for the majority of the day, like till 4 p.m. It could literally rain to the evening and you get canceled and you have no more qualifying sessions and you're not in. This guy goes out there and drops low ET, first pair down the track, 369, like bam.
It's
right?
The balls it takes to even attempt to make that run.
Brother,
right?
I don't know what you call it. You say you have to have balls, but sometimes people without balls are more confident. And I don't think that guy has balls.
No, I mean, I'm telling you, bro, like, because I think the same thing. Because you look at it and you go, man, to even go up there and attempt to make that run is really unbelievable. You know, yeah. And I'm curious, what do you make of like this? It seems like there are teams that really find their groove in these when the weather gets warm, right? And it kind of we start to see a little bit of separation where the teams that are, you know, war ready seem to thrive in this moment. And we can see the stage start to get set for the championship battle here in the dog days of summer. How excited are you, you know, coming off the heels of this win with the momentum your team has established? Seems like things are firing on all 8 cylinders. Like, are you excited about Western Swing or the headed out west racing in the summer and kind of diving into these brutal ones?
Absolutely. I mean, for us, we always ran pretty good in the heat. You know what I mean? That's why we did so well in Richmond. We qualified well and we went to the semis and we just lost when it rained because the track got better and we just got beat. But real like neck race with Langdon. And then we won the race before in Chicago or whatever. I mean, we were in the race in Chicago, and then we get here and we felt confident where we just came off the trailer. We ran a good lap right off the trailer, like an 80 flat. And we just came off of our Richmond run and did that because it was a little hot when we first got there to Norwalk. And then in the evening time, we go, all right, well, we're like, we want to improve. We want to be one of the top. We always shoot to be in the top 5. And we're like, if we could be in the top 3, that's the game plan. But you never know. You could run a 2,000 and you could be number 5. You're going to be slower than the other guy. So our game, we just like, you know, if you're in the top 5, you're doing really, really good now. So we shot for it. We go, we're going to shoot for it. We're going to shoot to try to be in the top 5, top 3. And we went out there, so let's run a low 70, like a 71, 72. We went out there and ran a 72. It put us right where we needed to be at. We ended up being the number 2 qualifier at that time. And we're like, all right, like we wanted to make a good run, but we didn't want to throw up at the same time. You get what I mean? Like spin the tires, trying to run like a 67 or 66 or 68 or something like that. So we laid up there and figured if we get runs on Saturday, we'll be down the field in a low qualifying spot, and we can just hammer it. We ain't got to worry about improving, being in the top 5. We're already there. Now we can just build on that 72, and that was our game plan. That's what we did. We went to 71, second low of Q3. Dougie went a 70 with a 9. We went a 71 with a 2. So our 71 with a 7, I think it was. So we're right there, like within 8 thou of him or something like that. Then we went for that final session and try to run that 60. We tuned it up, and it was our fault. We had the wrong clutch pack that we wanted in the car, and we nuked the clutch out of it Q4. We tuned it up and everything and put some more weight on the clutch. We just messed up and put the wrong clutch pack in. We nuked the clutch out of the car and went on 75. So we're like, all right, we know where we're at. We did that for round 1. And that's the whole trick of the nature is that you got to be able to elevate yourself. And we got the confidence going in now where we can run hot, cold, and we can run quick. We can run fast. And our car went up down the racetrack every lap in Norwalk, where we didn't have one aborted run, even though like we just nuked the clutch out of it. We dropped the hole in E1. We went a 73 when the car was on a 69 run. Dropped the hole at 500 feet, and we still went a 73.
When you've got a car that runs like that and the competition is as close as it is, and you mentioned like TJ Zizzo went 332 or whatever in the first round. I mean, guys are flying. How much more pressure does that put on you as a driver? Like we just talked about, like the stress that is in the grind that's associated with owning your own operation. But with the Justin Ashleys and the Sean Langdons and like this influx, it seems there's more focus on the starting line and that reaction time than seemingly ever before. Have you had to change anything, or have you had to like explore ways to elevate your game? I mean, you've always been a good lever. That's not really been an issue of yours, but is there anything that you've had to do or alter as far as your approach is concerned I was looking at your reaction times this weekend, very consistent. Have you had to adjust that program at all?
I think for me, Wes, is that what I had to do on my program is to get back to where I used to be. And the main thing for me is to shut my brain off and not think or try, just do. And the more laps I get, the better I get. So as I go deeper into races, I get better. And for me, the higher the pressure, the better I perform, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I try to make this situation in my head and pretend it's a high pressure situation so I can perform better. I'm a type of person where the stakes are high. I'm the one that likes to go in. Like that's my wheelhouse, man. It's like you can say, all right, this is the run. You got to win the championship. All's on this point. You got to stage it thin. You got to hit the tree. You want the ET. You want to go to the next round and get lane choice. What you going to do? This is me. Take that breath in, breathe out, let it out. Mindset goes clear. Go in and do what you need to do. That's always been my wheelhouse, man. I think that's the reason why we've always been where we're at, and that's the reason why I think our team's always been that way. When we get to those types of situations, we usually make the right move, and by making the right moves, we just do. I always say we do like Ray Charles. We just do what we do, man. It's like close your eyes and go on that thing blind. Don't overthink. Don't overcomplicate it. Just do what you do, baby, and let it do what it do. And that's the way we operate, my man.
Man, it was great to see you do what you do this past weekend in Norwalk, brother. It's seriously, it's a fantastic thing for our sport to have an ambassador such as you. I'm glad to have gotten to know you over the years, and I can't wait to see what's next, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you do battle with these cats in the dog days of summer, and hopefully you're in that spot. Like, let's go to Pomona and have it all on the line, brother. Can you set that up for us? Let's do it.
That's the game plan, man. We're gonna make it interesting. I'm giving you a preview is what I think is going to happen. I think you're going to get to Pomona, and it's going to be a dogfight with about 4 or 5 cars that's still in contention. I very firmly believe. I know at least 4 of them is going to be really, really tight, and I want to be one of them for sure. That's definitely what
you're headed that direction, big dog. Headed that direction. Well, thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only, Antron Brown. Thank you, buddy.
Anytime. Thank y'all.
Appreciate you, dude.
Anytime, brother.
Holy moly, man.
Yeah, man.
What a deal, T. What a deal. Right?
Yeah. Antron's awesome, isn't he?
Dude, again, I just can't help but I love getting to talk to all these different people from all different walks of the drag racing life, right? It's just something I'm proud of. That was the goal. Whenever we started Drag Illustrated, the goal was to treat the weekend warrior grassroots racer the same way we would treat Antron Brown or John Force or whatever. And it's moments like these that I'm really proud of. And I love this diversity of the show. We got to keep this up, Yeah. So anyways, dude. Well, hey, man, thank you so much. And all of you guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for participating each and every week. We will be back next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel. Thank you guys for supporting us. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Redline Synthetic Oil, Racers Club, Stroud Safety, Flow Racing. The list goes on. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. Stay tuned. We'll be back at you. And hey, wait, real quick. Don't I got to plug a couple of other shows? We've got Reaction Time, Monday morning, 11 a.m. We got Who You Got, taking a week off this week as we enjoy the holiday. I hope all y'all have a happy 4th of July. We have the Racing Business Season 3 in full swing. Yeah, man, I'm excited about all these different shows we got going. Reaction Time's killing. Have you seen these first couple of episodes?
Oh yeah, yep,
unbelievable. Huge.
We needed that.
To Kayla's.
Oh, and did you see that? I'm beating everybody on my picks. You know, of course, on who you got. So.
Not surprised. Actually, a touch surprised. A touch surprised, but not.
It'll go down quick.
I'm just glad
really only picking one out of each, you know. So, and it's more about like just looking at the overall and, you know, comparing the stats and.
Well, what I'm glad about.
Denzi's Deets gives us a ton of information. Like,
I'm just glad that you're watching something other than radial racing.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just glad we got you watching another form of drag racing. Guys, thank you so much. Happy 4th of July. Happy birthday to my daughter next Monday. She turns 10. Both my kids, double digits. Yep. Terrifying. Unbelievable.
It is kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy, man. It happens fast. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. JT, thanks for all your help. Mike, Blake, appreciate you guys. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Later.